Good afternoon, my name is Tumi Tladi. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So, let's get down to business, shall we? Before we do that, today it's Wednesday, the 11th of August 2021, time 7 minutes after 12 midday. Or should I call it noon? Americans, they call it noon. We call it midday. We don't even call it midday. We South Africans, we are, yeah. Other than that, if this video is the first video of mine that you're currently watching, please, I'm gonna urge you to watch the previous videos, especially from the beginning. There's a video titled Overview of Identical Dogs. That's where you see me, but also explaining a set of expectation with regards to this YouTube channel. I only create for sole purpose of showing how I build identical docs and what I continue to learn throughout this whole process. And then funny enough, I got to build two mini projects. They're called SMS API and email API. In fact, we're gonna need them as I continue to explain. So let me go to SMS API identical docs .co.za. We also need email API. Email API .identical docs.co.za. And there's a new system of mine that I'm still building called C versus C. But what I want to say is, I think this video is a video number 55, and I got to build two successful small mini projects. Both of them are ASP.NET Core Web API targeting.NET 5. So they are successfully being developed, deployed, published and deployed, or published or deployed. So we will talk about this one specifically in a second. And currently we are in the midst of version control series. After this series, because I intend to finish it, we are left with these things. We'll arrange them in a second. After this, I'm gonna do a mini series on Web API, both targeting.NET Framework and also .NET Core, because it's something that sits in the middle between the mobile application and the database, and also the mobile, the web application, it still needs to utilize it. Okay, and later on, I'm gonna do an extensive and major series on Xamarin, how I got to build my mobile application. If there's a stuff that interests you, please, if specifically this video is something that interests you, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment if you have any, please share, tell your fellow developers, tell anybody in IT space or any enthusiastic in the space about the goodness of this YouTube channel. And lastly, please subscribe, click that notification bell to be notified when I drop the videos, because even this morning I dropped the video, yesterday I dropped the video, I'm gonna drop this one tomorrow. I drop videos practically every single week. Okay, so with that being said, like I said, I'm in the midst of this version control series, and that in the previous video number 54, I was doing version updates folder, so we should mark it as done. And now what are we doing today? As much as these things, they're not sequentially prioritized or scheduled, whatever you want to call it, but because we did this and I promised that I was gonna do Git history, so this is what we're gonna be doing today. So let me do this, and this is gonna be video number 19. Okay, and then afterwards, video number 20, we're gonna be doing a Git Diff. I feel like this one is absolutely important, and I'll give you just a sneak peek on what to expect on the video that I'm gonna be doing tomorrow, Git Diff. But for now, we're gonna do Git history. So before we talk about what Git history is in the context of identical docs, I did something. Well, one of the main reasons why this project, particularly this email API. So first I started with this SMS API. So let me try to give a brief explanation why I decided to have these projects. Okay, this video is powered by Bulk SMS. I do have a video that I did. It's one of the service providers I utilized in my system, because I changed my passwords. I have about 30 to 35 accounts where it's username, password, and then where I specify if this one has a two-factor authentication, the recovery codes and everything. Everything is on my Apple devices on iCloud. Okay, so On that service, bulk SMS, I also have an account there. That's why I'm able to be authenticated to send SMS. Please watch my previous videos when we get to send the actual SMSs. Okay, and where we show the dashboard. So the idea is that identical docs, it's making use of the SMS API, a way to send SMSs. But it's not just identical docs. My new system C versus C will definitely need to send some SMSs. My other main system, which is Spy 8, will need to use, or it's utilizing SMS API. But what am I saying is that they have one thing common. They have the URL and they also have the credentials to authenticate myself in order to send those SMSs. So I decided to create one project that will handle that. If I change the credentials, I only change the credentials on this small project, and then the clients that are depending on this project, they do not have to change the credentials. Imagine how many. That's the intent. The same thing with the email API, because I use the same domain, but I use the same password when it comes to, don't worry, I'm not exposing anything. I'm using the same password for all my emails accounts. That's why I change them yearly, if not regularly. If I feel like I need to change them, I change them. But I want it to be in one place, because tomorrow on my new system, I'm going to make use of this system. Okay, so I tried, because we started with this project where we utilized it. Please watch my previous videos where I spoke about how we utilize it. Yesterday we utilized it on MVC for .NET Core. Today I want to do it on Web API for .NET Core. So hence I want to follow what I did yesterday. See this guideline, what I did to utilize this email API. Funny enough, before I could even switch the branches, as you can see currently I'm on master branch. This is a mistake. I already have some changes on master branch. It's a mistake that I realized later on. I want to move from master to Web API for .NET Core, but I want to see that how many places I will need to utilize this. For example, for MVC in .NET Core, I had to utilize this on business controller, businesses controller, subscription controller. I had to replace the old API with a new one on forgot password, because we have to send email, and also on the login. See, that's the whole point. So I want to take a sneak peek, and then I forgot to go back to this branch. Oh no, did I commit? I want to show this, but it's fine. I meant to do this. It's fine. That I meant to go back, and then I forgot that, I'm still in master branch and I did some work. So that's a mistake that I'm coming clean to say, do not do that. Do not work on master branch. Please do not work on master branch. You only push for master branch, but do not work on master branch. Okay. So funny enough, I only had to do one thing, which is remove these guys classes. And then I wrote a small comment for myself. We did this in a previous video where we explained the importance of this version updates folder, where there are these files, where funny enough there was no implementation of the email service whatsoever, because I did search, there was nothing. And that's something that's interesting, because today we are about to do Git history, right? That's what we are about to do today, Git history. I'll come back to this in a second. Let's go and learn what Git history is. So Git history, before we dive deeper. And by the way, there's a plenty of articles, blogs, documentation covering this topic of version control. And there's definitely thousands, if not millions, of videos on YouTube covering this topic. But there's one thing that's different. My content provides some juicy stuff, including the person behind this content, which is me, where I become completely honest about the mistake that we make as developers, because the mistakes that we make as developers are too costly. Okay, so I can only provide the very best. Like I promise you, the very best. With that being said, I hope you have already clicked that subscribe button. Okay, so what is a Git history? Quickly browse the history of a file from GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, or any Git repository. I want something that describes what Git history is. So Git basics: viewing the commit history, commit history after you have created several commits, or if you have cloned a repository with an existing commit history, you'll probably want to look back to see what has happened. The most basic powerful tool to do is git log command. I think, okay, viewing the commit history after you have created several commits, or if you have cloned a repository with an existing, I didn't know this part, to be honest. If you have cloned a repository with an existing commit history, you'll probably want to look back to see what has happened, which is interesting. I think that's it. Remember, git log is as powerful as git comment because you will regularly be seeing the history of your commits, and that is the main focus of Git, that you can see the history of commits. Okay, so now we know what this thing is. It's fine, we'll come to it. So we are done with the mistake, and then it seems like I'm through with this email API because there's no other place where I've utilized this email API. It's been utilized here successfully, and then here successfully. Apparently here there was no any implementation, of which this is very interesting. That why is it that there were those classes? Let me go back to show this comment. What we did before I mistakenly clicked the commit all. Let's look at this comment specifically. Do you see this? I removed them. This interface I email sender, and we'll cover these Git symbols. There's a video schedule for that. For now, I'm just giving you, Git tiny icons and Git symbols. And then also, like I told you, Git Diff. This is Git Diff. This is Git Diff. This one. We'll talk about this. Obviously, it's on by default, but I can't open this one because it contains some sensitive stuff. That's why they're moved now to email API. But I want to show that these guys, they were not somehow utilized, and I don't know why. So why did I call them? They were not utilized. Literally, they were not utilized. So what we're gonna be doing, I can't do this, but we're about to check this MVC installer, the history on this particular file. Okay, with the hope to trace why did I add this and when did I add this, so I can try to explain to myself what on it I did. So this is the file MVC installer. If I do, I can either double click. I'm used to double clicking, and then therefore right click. Visual Studio don't hang. Okay, and then I will just go to Get. You see that there's a view history, but now today I've learned that you can just do without even having to open, like, so I can just right click and then go to Git history. I didn't know that, because if this file contains some sensitive stuff that I need to know, so it's the same thing that we can do and say, you know what, let's view the history. So that's what we are doing today, and then tomorrow we'll cover Git Diff. So I just want to see something here, because this is very important. This is absolutely important. You want to go back and see what is that you did. Don't worry, it's still loading. Like I've been trying to say, Microsoft should change this loading indicator. It's terrible. See, now it's showing stuff. And as you can see, these are the local history. I don't know if this is done. It's not done. I can see still loading, as you can see. So what am I saying is that I'm only looking at the history on a particular file as we have read from Google or from the research that we did, as now it is completed. So the very first time, I don't know how this thing starts. Yes, it starts from here. 16 December, part 6. As you can see, today I pushed on the master. This is a Git commit message. We already covered this in our previous video somewhere. Yes, commit messages and merge changes. Okay, so now we can see, we can be guided that we were on master branch core underscore web API. Then what else? Okay, so we see the date and the time. So this is part 6, replicating the version update system. So if I replicated the version update system, why did I temper this file? That's very interesting. So if I do right click, because I want to know, why did I write a message that says this was part 6 where I replicated the version update system? So I would want to do right click, view commit details. So it provides you this kind of a flexibility. Oh, obviously I can see. But if you look at this, this is when I added the file, as you can see. But we'll talk about this, a git symbol or get tiny icons. As you can see, it was added, so that means this is when the file was added, and then I just push these guys. But we'll do this is Git difference. I just want to show, okay, what did we do here? And obviously here we replicated, let's see briefly, we modified and to show the diff. Okay, see, this is when, but the history says part 10 I replicated what? The phone numbers system. So how does a phone number have to do with this commit? Where I got to add the email settings. So because this is where I got to add email settings. This is my comment, and then this is where I added the options. And then okay, let's do this so we can find the scroller. That wasn't a scroller, because Microsoft has to remove this thing that they put on the left. We have to find a way to dismiss this part. Okay, so we can see that this is when I added these guys, but there's nothing else. Why did I add this? Why did I add this? And then the default, I added the default 404 page to the startup. Okay, this one I can justify it. Because this one was affected also. You see where I had to add the comment and then add the razor pages so that it can work. Also, you see now it says register the email sender DI to the container. Why did I do this? I'm so confused. In fact, this one, why did I add these guys? So this is where now Git history now comes in, because I did not plan to do this, but after I made a mistake working on master branch, of which I wasn't supposed to have worked on master branch, then I realized let's try to dig deep, but I didn't do it prior recording this session. As you can see, I only made a you see, I wrote some description of what I did. But why did I add this guy? It doesn't make sense when there is no, or when there are no other files that have been modified, especially these ones. Why? And this one specifically, I can see that it was modified, but there's no accompanying file. Like, why did I add? Or maybe this is just a comment. Still, there's no way for me to trace that. Why is it that I have this email settings? Because I had to add this class, as you can see, or you saw from the previous commit, you know, that we added this class options, we added the interface, we added this implementation of the interface. I added them because they were removed, but there were no any implementation whatsoever. The question is why? So it provides this context. Another thing here is the commit says I added the default 404 page to the startup. Yes, this makes off a 404. Let's see how. Yes, we need this 404 because this is the default controller, which is home, with the default action method, which is the index, right? And then we added this razor pages to the service, and then launch setting. There's nothing sensitive there. What did we do? Okay, then I removed the Swagger. You see, this is part of the context where I removed the Swagger to be the launch URL. I removed this guy. I removed this guy. We'll do this. This is tomorrow stuff. And then I had to write the commit of the message, and then I added this guy, obviously. This is a 404, and then also the site CSS, and then the favicon, and then to startup I did something to say, listen, this handles the 44 page not found. It says use status code pages with re-execute, you know, and then also this allows the CSS and images to be served to the browser upon the request. That's where to use to add this line of code, use static files. This ensures that the home page is the default page and the only page to display. That's why I had to say you're going to become home controller at the index. So this is justifiable. This is the purpose of this video, where you can justify each and every single commit, like we read in that description or from that Google research, that you want to know what they did prior, what had happened. So this one is justifiable. This is justifiable because the commit message says, do you see how I operate? I told you that on this YouTube channel you can only, you know, expect the best, because we explained that I was working on this branch for this project. When we did this, when did we do this? It was on Tuesday. This was the version number, and we added the default 44 page to the startup. I can even browse to this page I'm talking about because this is .NET Core, right? We do api.identicaldocs.co.za. So this is exactly what we did. So what you're about to see, this 44 default page, is exactly what we did. Every single thing. This page is an index, it's a home. If I go to say home controller, and then I go to the index action method and hit enter, it's still gonna arrive to the same page. And this is the 5e icon, and this is CSS and everything. So this is something that's justifiable if you look at the Git history, which is this guy on that particular file, right? And then this is where we look at the Git Diff, but we'll look at it in detail. Or maybe what I should do, let me not schedule this Git Diff. Let me continue to do, let me say this is now Git History and Git Diff, because I feel like it's the same thing. And Git Diff. There we go. And I will do something else tomorrow. Because this was able to help us to understand the commit message, the operation, the action, which is we added something. What is it? We added the default 44 page to be the startup. That's exactly what we just saw. This is a default startup page. So this is able to help us from Git history now to Git Diff. If you are able to read this to understand what we did. By default, it was just endpoints.map controllers, but I had to be specific that this is going to be the route, the default route, home, index, and also going back to launch settings, I had to remove Swagger not to be the launch URL. It's very imperative to do this, to remove this guy from the profiles, also from the project itself. So everything is justifiable. And by the way, having to add the razor pages was needed. Razor pages, it's absolutely necessary, or else it doesn't work. I can justify this. We can do this now. It won't work. And then on the index over here, so we added the actual page that got to be served. This is it. What you saw. We are sorry, blah, blah, the page of request, blah, 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 blah. This is it. Everything. And the styling based on that is site.css. There we go. And the favicon itself, it was added, and I know stuff that were modified will do this. And the startup, everything is justifiable. Now let's look at something else. So we were done with this file. What else did I do on this file? We have a full-length validation. Let's see. Okay, here I added post one feedback request validator to the feedback system. Let's see what we did. But before we do that, let's clear this, guys. I'm enjoying this. Right click, view commit details, because there's a commit, but I don't see it. What did we do? Look at the commit. It says this was part one, where we added this validator, this class. It's a validator, right? Post one for what? Feedback upon the request. So we're validating that for the feedback system, but you don't see anything about that. Yet the file was somehow tampered with. So let's find out how and why. Let's right click, view commit details. There we go. There's a lot of stuff that happened here. Okay, so let's start here. So this is the main thing, right? The post one feedback request, right? Where I had to add the validation rows using the required attribute to say the title we're expecting something, the message we're expecting something, the rating also of type integer we're expecting something, it's a must, and then the user, the one who wrote the feedback or the one who wants to write the feedback, we're expecting something. This is for the sake of the mobile application, right? So this is this guy by default. And then we go to okay, so we added those guys. Let me see step by step. Obviously we had to write some stuff, so I don't care about this one. And then the validator, because we have the model and therefore we need the validator. So now we have the validator because obviously the class was added, right? And then what we did, so this is this. Cool. So for that title, we are saying because it's required, we're expecting the length to be between 10 to 20 characters in length. And then for the rating, we're expecting it to be greater than 0 but less than 6. That means if 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's like a star. You see that on the mobile application. Stay tuned for that one. And then for the message, we're expecting to be from 5 all the way to 100, and it also has its own global variables. I think this is justifiable. There we go. That's why this guy was added, where now there's a class called the global variables where I had to add this guy's validation message. So if you look at that one, so I'm trying to justify everything that we did based on the history. So this is where we added, you see my comment for feedbacks, where now we are writing the actual error messages to say the title length should be 10 to 20 characters, rating should be 1 to 5 characters, and then the message should be 5 to 100 characters. So now we are done. So, and then it comes to something that's very interesting. These classes, the error request model, I can justify it before we get to the controller. I had to add the field name, property, and the message. We need these guys. These are the error request model. And then the error response model, I'm making use of this guy to say, you're gonna get me the list of that object. I'm gonna say it's gonna be errors, and I'm also initialize it instantly. We need it where, when it comes to validation filter, it's a class that was added. Do not open. Do not open. I'm interested in. So we added this guy. So this helps us not to write. If not, the model state is invalid. Please stay tuned for that when I'm gonna do the mini series on Web API. You see what I'm doing? We don't have to say if on this control specifically. You'll see that in a second. If not, model state dot is valid. So I don't have to do that all the checks in each and every controller. I just do it once on this class called the validation filter, right? And then this is it. We're making use of that error request error response model, as you can you saw that we added error response model. Where's the request model? There we go, error request model. So these two guys, they depended on this validation filter class, and then this validation filter class, only then we had to register it on MVC installer. How? If I click there, this is where now we had to say, okay, previously we only had services.add controllers, and now we are adding the options for those controllers to say options.filters.add that type of a filter, which is a validation filter. So now you understand. On top of that, because we had, remember this says we added the validator for the feedbacks, we had to register fluent validation. Or we had to register fluent validation because this class won't work without fluent validation. Well, we had to add fluent validation with their options, register validations, validators from assembly containing what startup. So that's how this file of MVC installer was affected. So now we understand. We are done with this one. We are done with these ones. We are done, and now we are done with this one. And we saw the request. So how do we make use of this? This is where we get to make use of it. So we are adding that the model, using to your model. Okay, why is it not showing those colors? Okay, we already had this guy. You see, instead of having to have this, if not model state dot is valid, in all the controllers, I had to remove it because there's a validator, validation filter takes care of it. Validation filter takes care of it. That's it. And that's what we had to now register to say when it comes to bed request. You see, it returned a bed request but of type of void. But now we said it's gonna return of type error response model, where it will show properly the field name and the error message if there's any. That's it. So this is the power of a Git history, also with the power of a Git Git Diff. But I want to show this the right way because it's not showing nicely. So I'm gonna go to this controller, but we need this. So let me pull this guy and go straight to the controllers. Feedbacks, as you can see, feedbacks in v1, right click, Git Diff. Okay, I don't know why it's showing like this. I'm trying to figure out why the color coding is not, I don't know, but usually it shows nicely done with the colors, you know. Okay, it's fine. But here's another thing that's cool. When it comes to both GitHub and Azure DevOps, I don't like the Git Diff of GitHub, but I do love the Git Diff for Azure DevOps. So we're gonna look at the same file. Let's give this guy a second. So we're gonna go to identical docs. Repos, and then we're gonna go to this guy. That's a web API project, and then we're gonna go to controllers, and then we're gonna go to v1, and then we're gonna go to general, and we're gonna go to feedbacks. Now do you see how I know my system? Okay, we'll come to this in a second. Okay, this one's still loading. Okay, so this is the code that we have, but we want to see the difference. I see the commit. I don't want the raw. So that's the latest commit. Let's do it in a, oh, there's the history. Oh, so there's a history. I'm still learning. Okay, this side we also want to do the same thing. I'm gonna go to this web API for .NET Core, and then we're gonna go to controllers, and then we're gonna go to v1, and then we're gonna go to general and feedbacks. There we go. So what do we see here? The commit. So this is the latest commit, right? See, the same commit. So this is how it shows the diff. I don't like this way because it's confusing when it's like this. So I was wondering, is there other options to show the diff? Unfortunately not, because it's somehow terrible. It doesn't show nicely. But when it comes to Azure DevOps, oh, this one it's a dolly. So let's do this, and then let's do compare. Now this one shows the, like, I want this color coding. I love this color coding because we know these are comments, although it doesn't show that these are the objects, but at least we have a private read-only, you know, being color coded. So this one is able to show the right way, the way I want it in Visual Studio. I just know that there's a void and this one is an object. So at least this one provides that flexibility, you know, as opposed to this crap thing of GitHub. Okay, so this side we are done. Yeah, but there should be other options of how we get to see this. What is this unified? What does it do? Don't make some stupid. What is split? This is what I think. Oh, I didn't know there's a split. I've been looking for the, oh, so there is a split. But also, GitHub has this terrible thing of cutting the code. Like, I don't want, look at this. It's, what is this? Look at this. It's like, it's going to the next line. I don't want it to the next line. Are there more options that we can, because I'm just showing you the options that you have. It's terrible when it goes to the next line. I don't want it, but look at Azure DevOps. You are scrolling, it's scrollable. It keeps everything in the same line. I love this. And also, GitHub doesn't have those color codes. They're terrible. I know there's a comment. I want to see that there's a comment. These red or purplish, I don't like them. At least it was able to give us something, but no. Okay, but this one, what is interesting about this one, it's able to show the entire commit in detail. This one's only showing the file. It doesn't show the actual commit. What about the history on the specific file? Look at it. It's able to show the history on a specific file. Oh, this is cool. This is cool. On a specific file, like correctly version the v1. Let's look at this one where we correctly version the v1. You see, it used to be feedbacks controller, and now we added the feedbacks. See, I like this. Oh, no, I don't want to comment. We'll talk about this. We should talk about these comments. And Git Comment, because the same thing that we can add a comment. Let's schedule a video where we can do to say we need to do Git Comment. I'm curious to know what it does. Okay, but in a nutshell, this is something that I enjoy to see, that I can see a specific history, you know. So there's a rename, there's edit, you know. It's interesting. Look at Azure DevOps rename. Okay. And as we go back, what about when we edit the actual file, like the very first one? Edit. It's interesting. It's absolutely interesting. I don't want to lie. So this is Azure DevOps. I feel like Azure DevOps, it's more intuitive than GitHub, because this is Microsoft original stuff. Although Microsoft owns GitHub, but GitHub did a terrible job. But Microsoft is amazing. With that being said, this is what I wanted to show, and then that's it. I really enjoyed this video. I don't want to lie, I enjoyed it. The last thing that we need to do is that to push also now to Azure DevOps, since I only pushed, well, I didn't push. We should do that quickly. Let's go into GitHub. Close this guy. So I'm not sure what's the next thing that we need to do here, but I know what I need to do. I need to start working on this project because I need to add a v3. As you can see, there's a v1, v2. I'm gonna add a v3 because I need to secure this guy, but we're gonna start with this project first. So that's the milestone. Please watch the previous video where we did fetch, pull, and push. Please watch all these videos because I promise you, you're gonna enjoy this YouTube channel. With that being said, until next time, we are done for today.